I've owned this Blade PowerPole shallow water anchor for a little over a year. I've tried it out in several lakes, a couple rivers, and in this video I'm going to give you my 1-year review. I'm going to give you some of the pros and cons I've discovered, and by the end of the video you'll be able to tell if this is maybe the next toy for your boat. To say at the top of my list that one of the pros, this thing has worked flawlessly. There's never been any leaks, it's always worked. And this remote control is pretty awesome when you're setting up in the front of the boat, maybe casting out along the shore and you found a real good spot. You can quickly hit the down button and away it goes. And it's going to stop your boat in its tracks and hold you anchored. Now another pro I have to mention, it is very quick. As soon as you hit the button, it's up or it's down, whichever way you need to go. I have my PowerPole wired to my starter battery for the boat motor, and I've never had any issue with being on the water for 14 hours a day. It's never killed the battery, it's never seemed like it's even worn the battery down. So I'd say it's pretty efficient with energy usage. Now let's talk about a couple cons. This thing is solid mounted to the boat, so you can't really just take it on and off really quickly. Once you mount it, it's pretty much going to stay mounted. So that being said, this thing's kind of bulky, it's tall, it's kind of in the way a lot of times. Now once you're coming up to the dock or leaving the dock, you don't really have to worry about it hitting anything. But when you're doing a lot of casting, this thing is kind of in the way. It takes a little getting used to. You might change your style of fishing in the boat, whether you go from the left to the right to the middle, but it's just kind of in the way sometimes. Now another factor that's going to determine whether or not you like this shallow water anchor is really going to depend on what type of bottom is the lake you're fishing on. Now several lakes around me have a very muddy bottom, and I'm going to say maybe 12 to 18 inches of mud, and it's going to stick down into that mud. As you can see, maybe there's a little bit of mud on the pole, about 24 inches deep down into the mud. So if you have a rocky bottom lake, it seems like this sticks in and holds your boat a little bit better. Now in addition to the remote control, you have a power unit that has an up and down button on it. So the only way you can move this up and down is with the remote and the actual power unit. That's what it looks like right there. Just a small pump and a small oil reserve. Now if you'll notice, this green light is flashing. If this is hooked up to your battery, it does take a little bit of energy. So let's say you leave this hooked up to your battery for about a month, your battery's probably going to be dead. So when you hook this up to your battery, I like to use alligator clamps. So whenever I'm not using it, I just unhook it in storage. Right, here's how it's mounted. So you're going to have to drill right through the side of your boat. And if you come up over top here, I just use some large washers and some locking nuts, and then you're going to have your power cable and hoses, and you're going to have to route them down through somewhere over to wherever it is you mounted your pump. Would I buy this again for my boat? If this broke today, I would not run out and buy another one. Just because of the type of fishing I do, I don't use this very often. I tend to move around a lot, but if you're just going to casually fish and you want to just find a spot and fish, maybe you want to find a spot in the shade, then this anchor is really going to come in handy. But if you're in 5 feet water plus, this really doesn't hold you very well. I'd say 5 feet deep is really the max, because it's going to stick down in the mud about 2 feet, and technically as deep as this will go is about 8 feet at its max. So if you're thinking about buying one of these power poles, you've never owned one before, I suggest you maybe check out Facebook Marketplace and see if you can find a good used one. Now in my area, good used ones run around $600 to $700. Now if you're going to go out and buy a new one for about $1,600 to $1,800 and then you don't like it, you're probably going to kick yourself in the butt. So if you've never owned one before, you're thinking about getting one, I highly suggest buying used. So in conclusion, after using this over 2 summers, several lakes, and a couple rivers, in my own personal opinion, I would rather have an electric anchor. It's going to take up less space, it's basically just as quick, and you can use it in 5 feet deep or 35 feet deep. it's a lot more versatile to have one of those electric anchors. Now, like I said, it's really going to depend on your fishing style and the lakes you go to. If you fish a lot of shallow water lakes, this might be the ticket for you. But in my opinion, it really gets in my way a lot. When you take it in and out of your garage, you have to lower this down or you're going to hit the top of your garage door. So storage may or may not be an issue as well. But all in all, if you're to pick up a used one, for $600–700, I think that's a good bargain, especially if you fish to shallow water lakes. Hope this video was helpful and informational for you, and thanks for watching.